I think that maybe for this podcast, actually, we should probably just start with a cold open instead of any music, since it is a music podcast for once.
Kind of, yeah. Well, should you explain how this one's different?
Well, the other option is that we could just have you mash up songs from every person who died in 2016, every artist.
It's going to be a long podcast.
It's going to be the whole 1 hour will be just death.
Just have an audiobook going.
Audiobook of death.
Carrie Fisher sing on Broadway?
Probably. I don't know.
Her mom sang.
Well, someone's going to die in like the next 20 minutes who probably sang. But anyways, this is the 3% podcast we do every week or so. And it's usually about books, but every year we try and do one podcast where we just talk about music for whatever reason. I don't know why we ever started doing this in the first place. I guess because we like other media and it makes sense, although it is weird because when we talk about like TV or movies, I feel like there's a greater Venn diagram overlap of people who like the sort of books that we talk about on the podcast, although there is kind of a range there, and like the sort of movies and TV shows that we talk about. Whereas music, it's just a crapshoot. Like it's hard to judge like what kind of music people would like.
Yeah, it's true, but it's also, I mean, music's maybe the most universal out of all of them. Like, there's no one who doesn't listen to music, really.
There probably is someone somewhere who doesn't listen to any music ever.
On purpose or just
on purpose?
A religious devotion, perhaps?
Just like manages to stay out of it entirely. So what we're going to do this year, instead of like, in years past, we've done a variety of different things, like top 10 lists or like ways we pick them, and so past all those things, I want to do it sort of like what we did last podcast, where we talked about movies and TV and other media, and what we're going to do on the next podcast, which will be just about books. And that's essentially to do, not like a draft is the wrong way to use it, but that's the phrase that they use on one of the baseball podcasts I listen to, where you just pick a song or an artist or an album that you want to talk about, that you think has something interesting that you could discuss or whatever, for whatever reason you want to use, you just get a pick and we'll just go around in a circle. I think we all have like some sort of list that include more songs and artists than we would be able to include on this podcast, so we'll go for as long as we go for, and see how that works out. So
should we introduce our cast of characters who's on here?
But these are the same people who are always on here. This is Chad,
Kaija,
Nate.
So it's the whole open letter crew, as usual with the music podcast. We haven't had guests in a while.
Yeah, I don't think Will Cleveland's is stuck in traffic.
Will Cleveland is at the bar.
In a brewery somewhere.
He's at the bar writing a new article about bars.
Quick, this in case I want to improv on my list as it goes on, are, as opposed to your other media one where you're saying like it can be anything as long as it's new to you. For this, are we trying to keep them to actual 2016 songs?
I'm trying to keep them to 2016, although I feel like I didn't listen to as many albums as often or as religiously in 2016 as I have in years past.
Yeah, I spent so much of the year listening to stuff like almost exclusively from the late 50s through the early 70s. But I still was able to come up with a 2016 list of sorts.
Why did you listen to that music?
I just got into this...
That music.
that music. Listen,
dirty,
first off, they're not...
dirty music.
They're not called those songs. Yeah. I just really got caught up in the certain genres of from Detroit through into kind of early rock stuff in the 70s, and just all the crossings between them, and I just got obsessed with it for months and months and spent a lot of time listening to it and finding a lot of music that like a lot of people may know quite a bit, but there's a lot of music there, so there's always a lot of amazing new things to find if you really do deep dive into it.
Fair enough. Well, you want to go first with anything? Me? I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with one which is it's a new song, but it is a genre consistent with a lot of the music I was listening to, which is it's by a guy named Charles Bradley, and this is actually a cover of a Black Sabbath song called Changes, which most people may know that song. I was unfamiliar with Charles Bradley until this year, when this song kind of got I got enough of a reputation for it to come across my screen. And he's kind of a soul singer, and I think his cover of the song is, I don't know, if you're really into Black Sabbath, you will never agree with this statement, but I kind of like this cover better than I like the original song.
So I'm gonna preface this with one thing that I think is funny, is that on Spotify, when I pulled up his page, it lists the most popular tracks, of course, by the artist, and Changes is number 2 with 2 million something. It's not even, these aren't in order of numbers. I don't know if these are listens, whatever they are. 2,500,000. The number 1 most popular song of his has 10,912,000 listens or whatever, and it is called "The World Is Going Up in Flames," which I just don't know what that is maybe too perfect.
That's probably a good popular song for 2016.
It's gonna be like the anthem. So let's listen to Changes. Here we go.
I feel unhappy. I feel so sad. I have lost the best friend that I ever had. She was my woman. I love her so. But it's too late now. I let her go. I'm going through changes. I'm going through changes in my life. Oh, baby. Oh, now.
All my songs are depressing as fuck. I try to throw in a couple that I could play just
I've
so
got
not all
the most
depressing.
offensive one.
Mine are really
Locked
juvenile.
up.
Yay, we got around it then.
We shared the year. We shared each day. In love together. We found a way.
Okay, I'm gonna play this.
Somewhere
to see.
between like the ending pre-credits music for a rom-com, but also sort of nice-ish background music for any kind of setting,
For a dinner
which is
party.
very generalized, but it's either you've got mail or
It's a hard song to get mad at.
yeah.
I'm going through changes. I'm going through changes. Oh, in my life.
Okay, so yours are all depressing. Kai's are all juvenile. You
Yeah.
want to go with juvenile next? Because I'm gonna go offensive after that. Then.
Sure. So yeah, I similarly, I guess to Nate, I didn't, or you as well, to all three of us, I didn't really have any albums that I picked apart in 2016 because I got really into Spotify's whole discover and browse thing and use that a lot more than I have at any other time. And that bounced around a lot. And there were some songs that I initially wanted to put on here that I discovered were not 2016. But I based my list on the songs that I could remember getting stuck in my head for days on end, most frequently. And most of those songs were quite juvenile. I feel like anything I pick is just going to be insulting to Nate's song. It's just Well, it is the nature of being incredibly juvenile. Okay, I'm just gonna go with the first one. So it's a song called "Love Me Better" by Love Thy Brother, and it features this woman, Ariel Beasley. I can't find anything on her. I don't think she exists other than having an Instagram account. Maybe she's a model. Don't know anything about Love Thy Brother at all, but this is a song where I would spend days with it stuck in my head, and it's not something that I would normally go for.
Your hands brush past mine in electric light. You're dancing like you're mine. Can't keep this inside. Don't pretend you're blind. It's time to cross the line. I know you want to hide, but I won't let that slide. Don't protect your pride. Don't leave me without saying something. Don't make this out to be nothing. I miss you when you're not here, and I don't know if I have the right to wish that you would care. Just take me where home is tonight and love me better, better, better. Love me better, better, better. I don't know if I have the right. Just take me where home is tonight. Can't be insincere, you know what we.
And it's specifically the refrain that gets stuck in my head, but so the whole thing is sort of cotton candy-ish and has that distant reverby sound to it. But the video I went and looked at one day, and it's completely bananas. This woman who's singing is this character, and she kills a bunch of people. I don't know if it's her family and if her friends are helping her or what, but there's a lot of blood, and she wants to get into her best friend's pants, I'm assuming, and they're like running in the woods covered in blood, which is not at all the image I would get from this song in general.
Just take me where home is tonight and love me better, better, better. Love me better, better, better. I don't know if I have the right. Just take me where home is tonight.
Well, you know, it reminds me of a little bit. Her accent's kind of different, but her voice is kind of similar in a lot of ways to Marina in the Diamonds.
Yeah, Maria's is a little deeper, but there's so many
I love
things.
her voice. I love, like, they both have a little bit of that back of the throat kind of general thing to emphasize words, which I really like because it's kind of counter to the top 40 super girly feminine.
Right. I mean, there is actually one part toward the end of the song where, I mean, she's singing at a higher range, and then she does go all the way low in her voice switch, like you're saying with Marina and the
When
Diamonds.
she bounces it around. Like,
To wish that you would care. Just take me where home is tonight and love me better, better, better. Love me better, better, better. I don't know if I have the right. Just take me where home is tonight.
But there's nothing about her. I think I literally typed in Ariel Beasley in Google and it gave me her Instagram account. Like she's...
The artist only has this song and one other song.
And that's one of the things that fascinates me.
No, actually, they have... Oh, yeah. They have... No, this is the only song they have. The other song is a remix of someone else's song.
Okay.
I wonder if she's like a YouTube person. Maybe she's a YouTube presence.
It could be, or a friend who's
I don't
also
even know what that
a model.
means, but I know, I'm just kidding. I know what that means. I want to know what that means.
It's a website that's on the internet.
So, yeah, so... Okay, so I have more. When I started going through this, I have more songs that are in my playlist than I thought of ones that I liked from this year. But I probably didn't listen to them as religiously. So I have like a long list to
your
choose
list
from.
has two sides to it.
My list has two sides to it. But the thing that I want to play is this because because I just think it's funny. So I don't know that this album would be one of my favorites, but I thought this was pretty interesting. So Bud Light has all these cans that are based on football teams, so you can get your football team's can, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Raiders or Panthers or whomever you want.
Gotta catch them all.
You could catch them all. Actually, you can't because they only sell the ones for the local teams in the local market, so there's no possible way you can buy like a Carolina Panthers Bud Light can in Rochester. You can only get the Bills and maybe the Giants if you're lucky, but they have a series of commercials for these stupid cans, right? For the stupid promotional idea that's really dumb. And when you watch football, they show them endlessly. And there's one for the Bills, for the Buffalo Bills, which would be the one that we get. And this is the thing. Hey, listen to it. And it's a guy trying to open a can, and it's too cold for him to open the can. And he finally opens a Bud Light, right as that kicks in, and he drinks it, and all is good. You can drink beer with your team on it. And I heard this twice, and I was like, I fucking know this song. This song is something I've listened to before, like that background music. Like, I know this song, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure it out and trying to remember, like, where this was coming from. And then it dawned on me, and this is that song, and you guys just have to listen to it. So it is this.
Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks, put me to your lips. I am sick, I will punch a baby bear in his shit. Give me lip, I'ma send you to the yard. Get a stick, make a switch. I can end the conversation real quick. I am crack, I ain't lying, kick a lion in his crack. I'm the shit, I will fall off in your crib. Take a shit, hit your mama on the booty, kick your dog, fuck your bitch. That boy dressed up like you Santa and took pictures with your kids. We the best, we will cut a frowny face in your chest, little wench. I'm unmentionably fresh, I'm a mensch. Get correct, I will walk into a court while it wrecks, screaming, yes, I am guilty, motherfuckers, I am death. Hey, you wanna hear a good joke? Nobody speak, nobody get choked.
So that is Run the Jewels on the new DJ Shadow album, which is very, obviously they're very political and very inappropriate. There's another line in there that says, I'll get you faster than Trump fucks his youngest, which is another addition to our 2016 entourage. But that's the song that Bud Light decided to use to promote the Buffalo Bills can.
Kind of subversive.
I just think it's amazing because I was like, it must be something, whatever, and then I realized what it was. It was like, oh no, that's not what I would have thought.
The irony is that no Bills fan is sober enough to do any of the things in that song.
No. Well, I think the commercial is misleading, where it's like it's too cold to open the can because he's got his gloves on. It's really because they're just getting suplexed through a picnic table like usual, and you can't open a beer can. So, anyways, that's a pick for me. I do like the DJ Shadow album. It's actually pretty solid, and I love Run the Jewels. And they actually, I was going to have another segue to this, is they released their new album 3 weeks early on Spotify on Christmas Day because everyone needed a present. So,
I haven't heard it.
That's very nice of
I
them.
saw a lot of articles saying Christmas is canceled.
Yeah.
I listen to this instead.
Baby duck if it quacks with a Ruger. Top billing, come cops and billing it. Shots is blocked, shipped out and bought, and y'all feeling it. LP killing it. Killer Mike killing shit. What more can I say? We top billing it. Valiant without villain it. Viciously found victory. Burnt towns and villages. Burning, looting, and pillaging. Murderers try to hurt us. We curse them and all their children. I just want the bread and bologna bundles to tuck away. I don't work for free. I am barely giving a fuck away. So tell begging Johnny and mommy to get the fuck away. Yo, here's a gun, son. Now run. Get it the gut away. Live to shoot another day.
yeah.
Oh boy.
So back to depressing.
Change
Solid.
it down. Well, I have at least one or two upbeat ringers if I need them. I'm not sure if I could save them and try to get some of the more depression out of the way first. Okay, I'll play this. I'll play one of my upbeat ringers, which is by a little known artist named Lady Gaga. And this is it. What we're going to listen to is the opening track on her new album, Joanne. The song's called Diamond Heart. I was a long-time Lady Gaga supporter, and then she deeply, deeply disappointed me with her piece of shit album a few years ago called Art Pop, which was a piece of garbage. It seemed like she didn't have any sort of direction, wasn't quite sure what she was doing. This album is just a really strong album. It's like there's one song on it I kind of don't like, but almost every other song on it is very strong. There's nothing terribly provocative about it. It seems like she's becoming a better singer-songwriter. This first song is just a very upbeat kind of rock and roll song that kind of, I think it kind of channels like Stevie Nicks and people like that pretty well, and it shows off her singing chops too.
Young wild American, looking to be something. Out of school, go in for 100 or 2. Some asshole broke me in, wrecked all my innocence. I'll just keep going, and this dance is on you. 1, 5, 10, lay a million on me before the end of this song. Young wild American, come on, baby, do you have a girlfriend? Rain on me a million. I'm not flawless, but I got a diamond heart. Oh, I might not be flawless, but you know I got a diamond heart. Oh, I might not be flawless, but you know I got a diamond heart.
This is admittedly, I think, the first album of hers that I don't know than other the commercials and maybe the song Joanne. I've not heard a single thing.
I never listened to her at all, so it's not surprising to me that I don't know, but
Not
I
on
just
my radar at
have
all.
never heard any part of it.
You know, and
I didn't even realize that it existed.
she outsourced a lot of indie rock people. I forget the long list, but like Father John Misty co-wrote several songs. I think Beck was in there somewhere. What's her name?
Florence Welch.
Florence Welch.
yeah.
Yeah, that's who I was going to say. And some other musicians that I don't remember who they were, but there's a lot of people, as opposed to what she was doing before, which is like, I'm going to team up with all the biggest R&B producers. She got a lot of indie co-writers on this one, which I think helped her considerably.
Back.
And I'm not flawless, but I got a diamond heart. Oh, I might not be flawless, but you know I got a diamond heart. Oh, I might not be flawless, but you know I got a diamond heart. Good thing I know what I'm worth. What a good thing, put the money down first. Better get a good look, baby, soon I'm breaking out of here. Young wild American, come on, baby, do you have a girlfriend? Rain on me a million. I'm not flawless, but I got a diamond heart. Oh, I might not be flawless, but you
All right, I'm going to take a switch, since Nate did not go straight up depressing, and go to one album that I think came out at the beginning of the year, but it's School of Seven Bells. It's just SV, whatever the self. So the reason this one is depressing, and I think,
Because they're dead.
well, only the one, but so I'm trying to. I would just do the first song as well, but so the guy, there were 2 remaining people, the woman and the guy passed away in 2013. It's some sort of cancer, I think.
I thought it was like pneumonia, but I might be wrong.
No, it was either leukemia, cancer, or something like that.
Not the good leukemia either.
No, very much not so. And so what she ended up doing is taking all the bits. They had been working on this album prior to his death, and put it together. I forgot what the post on their website said about it, but from what I remember, it's essentially supposed to be sort of, in a matter of speaking, a love letter to the, I guess, School of Seven Bells existence as a group, kind of from their very beginning to the end of the band as it stands. And it maybe isn't as exciting for me as the first few were, but it's still exactly in the vein of everything they've ever done, and I still just like it, and I'm obsessed with the name School of Seven Bells and the whole reason behind it because of that pickpocketing school. And I've always been obsessed with the idea of them, and I do like everything that they've done. I sort of forgot about this album. And I guess what I do like about it is that even considering sort of the impetus to the album and how sad all of that is, I didn't find it in any way to be sappy.
Yeah, their songs are all basically this to me.
Yeah.
Like they're like the shoegazy with her ethereal voice in the background.
Yeah, which is, I mean, they're one of the...
But he was also part of Secret Machines, which is now no longer going to exist, and they're awesome too.
Till I believe.
I've always liked them, so I just wanted to have some sort of reference to it because it's unfortunate and it's very sad, but it was nice in terms of the fans that she still went ahead and had it produced and brought it out 3 years after.
So I'm going to use death as a segue here, because it seems to be like pretty good and inappropriate too, maybe. But I don't want to say anything super ignorant here, but like we all know that Fife Dog from Tribe Called Quest died earlier this year. When did he die? It was a while back, because I remember we used the song on one of our podcasts, one of the songs. Anyways, he died, so you think, okay, well, Tribe Called Quest hasn't had an album out in, like, whatever, 20 years or something like that. And he died, so it's over. And then suddenly, like, a few weeks ago, they released a double album. That's their last album ever. And I don't know how much... I don't know when it was recorded or what the deal was or what the setup was for it, and that I've never looked into at all. But I've listened to it a few times, and I think it's pretty cool. I don't really know which song to choose because they're all fine. They're all Tribe Called Quest songs. Right. So we'll just choose Disgeneration.
with a capital G, ball in the beat.
Status Chris Paul or John Wall in the league. Grab a mic till the knuckles will bleed.
Cause I believe
The potent and I'm quoting have you geek like speed. If rationale is natural or weave, it's all edges and peas. Setting press free on a permanent steez.
these. I'm in the world where my princess is Leia. Ain't she feeling my Vader? And my lore grows greater and greater. Chemtrails dropping poisonous vapors. Have you shaking like Gator?
Been trill, nigga, process the data.
Blu-ray wave, follow a beta. I DVR for later. Copper massa with a G to my waiter. You can't define us X, Y, and Z. It's a generational elitist. Have you cheated?
The whole album is like 2 hours, it seems like. It says it's 1 hour in here, but that's not true. There's 16 songs, and they're all like 4 to 5 minutes long. So it's super long, and it's fairly just straight Tribe Called Quest, a little more updated, a little bit more political at times. Tribe Called Quest has a new album out. You have to kind of reference it because it's the end, the era.
Pretty true.
That was a good time. They were always my favorite of that sort of 90s rap.
They are extensions of instinctual soul. It's the highest of commodity grade, and you can get it today. One hit and reading pages of Poe. Telly is low, cuddle bunny ready to go. Day of the dead,
Bury all the zombies instead.
and it's just your aftermath. Buster cutting your dreads.
Bruce Lee and niggas, Ryo niggas, UFC. Smoke trio niggas, is a lot of
It was also, I also remember it as being like a very specific voice in the skateboard kids I was around that were the rap skateboard kids, very deeply into this.
Yeah, they're great. And the album's pretty solid.
Magic Mike on the mic, David Blaine Douglas Henning.
In the church of Busta Rhymes, it's my sermon you getting. Horizontal spitting, I'm the exorcist of your witness. Don't interrupt me, nigga. Sorry, that's a sin unforgiving. Like how we be skipping on beats like cooking crack in the kitchen.
Just start the package, dry it back up the wet. This Man City's not a game, easy, quiet on set.
Fine student of the past, trailblazing the day. Not acknowledging a trend swept up in the phase. We still the highest of commodity grades, and you can get it today.
Okay.
Using death as a segue.
I ruined it.
This guy's not dead though, but this song is very influenced by death. Nick Cave came out with a new album this year called Skeleton Tree, which very quickly the story behind this is, if you know anything about Nick Cave and what his music sounds like, it's almost too sickly appropriate. His son, I think he was about 12 or so, fell off a cliff and died.
Jesus.
He was in the process of recording this album when it happened, and apparently he had most of the album written already, but he recorded it all afterwards. It's definitely influenced by the fact that he lost his son. It's one of the saddest things you could possibly listen to. In fact, they made a documentary about it, which I haven't seen yet, called One More Time with Feeling, if you want to see about those recording sessions. And this song is called Girl in Amber, and it's a very, very intimate song, and he does a much more quiet version of himself through much of the album, but you can very much hear basically him being a very tortured individual.
Some go on, some stay behind, some never move at all. Girl in amber, trapped forever, spinning down the hall. Let no part of her go unremembered, clothes across the floor. Girl in amber, long to slumber, shuts the bathroom door. The phone, it rings no more. The song, it's been since 1984. The phone, it rings no more. The song, it's been spinning now since 90. And if you wanna bleed, just bleed. And if you wanna bleed, just bleed. And if you wanna bleed, don't breathe a word. Just step away and let the world spin you now and turn you kneel, lace up his shoes, your little blue-eyed boy.
And one of the things that I like he does in this song is that his word phrasing, like, all is kind of just a little too incongruous with what the music is doing to, like, keep this feeling kind of, keeping everything feeling upside down, kind of matching his lyrics.
Now since you've been gone, I used to think that when you died you kind of wandered the world in a slumber till you crumbled, were absorbed into the earth. Well, I don't think
This is like very much squarely in line with all of his albums, even though it does have a personal.
Yeah, I mean, this album overall is much more quiet and whispery. Like, you know, he usually has a much more bombastic voice.
Yeah.
spins, it's been spinning now. And if you hold me, I will tell you that you know that if you wanna leave, don't breathe. And if you wanna leave, don't breathe. And if you wanna leave, don't breathe a word and let the word.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go back to my juvenile stuff and go with a guy named Brendan McLean, and the song is called Hugs Not Drugs, parenthetical, or both.
I look myself in the eye and wonder when. I look myself in the eye and wonder when. Am I getting it together? Lord, it's been forever since it felt right. I look myself in the eye and wonder when. I called my mother, my father, and a friend. Have you got it all together? Lord, it's been forever since it felt right. We want hugs, not drugs, or both. If it's available, I'll take two. And you under the table, let's both get drunk and forget the rest, yeah.
The juvenile part of it being, I mean, the lyrics of like drinking under the table and texting exes and forgetting everything, and some lyric of like trying to be very convinced that whatever the singer and narrator of the song has his shit figured out and it's going to be fine. So I have no real explanation.
Yeah, nothing else. Just no other
nothing
comments.
else. It's juvenile, and I liked it, and it gets stuck in my head.
We want hugs, not drugs, or both. If it's available, I'll take two. And you under the table, let's both get drunk and forget the rest, yeah. We want hugs, not drugs, or both. If it's available, I'll take two. And you under the table, let's both get drunk and text all of our exes. These hugs and drugs don't make it better. These hugs and drugs don't make it better. Hug and drug don't make it better. Hugs and drugs don't make it better. Hugs and drugs don't make it better. These hugs and drugs, hugs and drugs. I really got my shit down. I really got my shit down. I really got my shit down. I went down. I really got my shit down. I really got my shit down.
Did he at least die or something this year?
No, but it's about hugs and drugs.
But I'll stick with the death. We can make death the ongoing thing. So Kristen Hirsch is the artist behind Throwing Muses, which was my favorite band ever when I was in college, and her solo albums have been spectacular. But they have come out irregularly as of later. however we could properly pronounce those words. And the last couple I haven't listened to that often, but this year she had an album come out that was confusing because it's called Wyatt at the Coyote Palace, and it's a double album, and initially it was only sold as a book. So I bought the book, and the book is both albums with her writings in between every song. So it would be like a piece of writing, and there's I can actually explain more of this. So the first part is like, there's a piece of writing, then there'll be the lyrics to a song, which matches one of the songs on the album, then like another piece of her writing, which tended to be a conversation between her and another person, another character, another voice, and then it would be song lyrics, then a piece of her writing, then song lyrics, and go back and forth in that way through a 24 song, hour and 22 minute long album. And one weekend are
the pieces of writing spoken on the album also?
No, those pieces of writing are just separate. They're in the book, and all of the pieces of writing deal with near-death experiences for her and for her son, which is the last one, which you don't know until the end what the whole point of this is. But they tend to deal with the pieces tend to deal with near-death experiences. The songs tend to deal with her relationship with her husband, who's also her manager, and how that all dissolved and fell apart, and they got divorced like 2 or 3 years ago. And then the conversations are sort of reflections on that. And it's not as heavy as that because a lot of them involve like a weird sort of wordplay where like an image that's in one of the pieces of writing about the near-death experience will then show up in the song, but in a new context that makes it more something else. And then the conversation will be a joke about something, and then it keeps going. And I listened to that and I read the whole thing and listened to the whole thing as it was meant to be done in one sitting, which took about 2.5 hours because I was pretty fucked up as it went along, like, drinking, and so it gets harder to read those pages as time goes by. But it's also like a fairly emotional album taken as a whole, and I think it's best done in that way. And there's certain songs that are more obviously like very like poignant and slow and orchestrated, and there are others that are more catchy. I'm going to use one of the more catchy ones just because I think the other ones you need more time with to make them make sense, but we'll just play Hemingway's Tell.
Rustic trees and spitting in the wind. Cold war, hot war, peace. Another lesson we don't need. Another lesson we don't need. Swimming to normal.
Listening to it as an album is weird in a way, or listening to individual songs is weird because it is like one story essentially, but not like narratively. And she orchestrated the whole thing by herself. So she spent years on it apparently, like playing every instrument and like remixing it and crafting it and all of her stuff. And I think in a near perfectionist way. But it is like it's like one testament. Having the book, which I thought I brought in here, but I don't know where I put it if I did. But the book is really nice.
Swimming
Should I get my last death one out of the way?
I suppose so.
Speaking of death, Leonard Cohen died this year, and he also released his last album, which was called If You Want It Darker. You'll be surprised to find out that the song sounds exactly like Leonard Cohen. But he died, and this is his last album. And he was, he's kind of stopped or barely made albums for quite a long time. And I think it was within the last 5 years of his life, he released 3 albums, which are kind of, they're all kind of a sort. It feels like they were all kind of companion pieces, like some sort of triptych of albums or something. As I understand it, with this last album, because it was released like I think 2 or 3 weeks before he died.
Right there, yeah.
And as I understand it, when he recorded it, he had to be like sitting in some sort of medical chair that would like prop him up. Or
Jesus, man.
And all the songs are obviously about him. I mean, he knows he's gone. He knows he's a goner very soon. So anyway, the title track is, and I think it's the opening track too, is called "You Want It Darker." So yeah, we can listen to a bit of that.
If you are the dealer, I'm out of the game. If you are the healer, means I'm broken and lame. If thine is the glory, then mine must be the shame. You want it darker, we kill the flame. Magnified, sanctified be thy holy name. Vilified, crucified in the human frame. A million candles burning for the help that never came. You want it darker. Hey, nay, 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 nay. I'm ready, my lord. There's a lover in the story, but the story's still the same.
You may be surprised to find out that he kind of talk-sings over a choir of women. It's a real change-up for him.
Yeah.
I never really got into Leonard Cohen. I don't mind it, but
If people that are into Leonard Cohen are way into Leonard Cohen.
They're lining up the prisoners and the guards are taking aim. I struggled with some demons, they were middle class and tame. I didn't know I had permission to murder and to maim. You want it darker? Hey, nay, 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 nay. I'm ready, my lord.
Speaking of deaths this last year, the death of the Nobel Prize for Literature, if they were going to give it to someone, Leonard Cohen should have. If they're going to give it to a musician, a white middle-aged old musician guy, Leonard Cohen deserved it far more than Bob Dylan. I'm sorry.
For the love that never came, you want it darker. We kill the flame. If you are the dealer, let me out of the game. If you are the healer.
okay, I'm gonna go with a song called Books by Toy Cars, since we are book people, in fact. So this is maybe juvenile in terms of the style of music I liked when I was in high school, or what I listened to more. But what I like the most about it is the guitar parts in the song, because it's sort of not so much gravelly, but I'll use this word again this week. It's kind of scrappy sounding.
Isn't this a...
I'm right on my...
what the fuck is that song?
I can hear the...
I can too. What is that song?
I was so close to getting
Me too.
Enough away for you to make a
crackle. That's what the word is. There's a crackle to it.
Sweet knowing, close our eyes, we just might finally realize that we deserve exactly what's been coming to us all along. And I hope you call that hell. Whoa. We know damn well that we're both lying, and we're just waiting on each other to see it. Say those 3 words, but do we mean it? Oh God, I hope this time I mean it. It's been a long year, and we both feel it. And we're just waiting on each other to see it. We say I love you, but do you mean it? Oh God, I hope this time I mean it. Whoa.
Yeah. Whoever's listening to this, send us the name of that, because it's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's like it's just a bit of a note different. It's I can hear it.
Are you saying this is like partially plagiarized?
I think they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's fair.
No, I think they know that people would know that's what they're doing. I don't think they're trying to keep it a secret. I would call it a friendly homage. Play the first few bars of it again.
Okay, are we ready? It's got a screaming in the background on the real song, too.
It's so close, I can feel it.
Well, I've given you guys a riddle then.
I mean, if you played that into Soundhound, it would guess the song we're thinking of first.
It probably would. It probably would.
I'll have figured this out by the time I'm editing it, and I'm going to put in a little bit of the real song here.
Darling, you got to let me know. Should I stay or should I go?
That's all it would take.
Well, that's been stuck in my head on and off throughout the year as well, and now you guys.
Well,
that is your Christmas
because
present.
it's based on a #1 famous hit single.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go. It's a Christmas present to the both of you.
Okay, so I have to go next, huh? There are a lot of choices here. I've been waiting for 2 of them, and I've been saving because I'm waiting for one of you guys, or both of you guys, to use them. So
I got
I'm not.
one.
Well, that's why I'm.
I got one. If you want to not take one from me, I got one that might be one you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So I'll instead play what probably ends up being one of the legitimate favorite albums of the year for me, which is the Avalanche's new album, Wildflower, which the Avalanches had an album that came out in 2000, and then 16 years later, after rumor after rumor after rumor after rumor after rumor that their new album was coming out, that it was being mixed, that it was being done, that it was they finally dropped a new album at the middle of the year, like in the spring, summertime, which is kind of perfect. It's also one of these long 22-song, 1 hour, 4-minute albums, but the thing that I like most about this is that it's basically, a lot of the songs are very short, and they truly flow together. Like, there is no starting and stopping on this album whatsoever, and there's lots of samples and voices in the background that make it feel as if you're in a place in which music just kind of drifts in and comes in to a space where other things are going on, or conversations are happening, or whatever, and then this sort of takes over for a time, and then it fades back out, and there's like various like radio sort of segues that make it sound, and it kind of reinforces that atmospheric nature of it. And I think the one that I get stuck in my head the most, there's a few that are really funny. Like the Noisy Eater is like a joke song that's incredibly funny in a way and ends with a pot reference. And the Frankie Sinatra song is really wonderful. But I think If I Was a Folk Star is the one that I don't know. I wrote down like 4 when I was listening to it, and I was like, which ones would I play? And it's like all of them. But I'll stick with If I Was a Folk Star.
Is it mostly non-vocal?
Yeah, there's some songs that have lyrics, and some of them are like, a lot of them are like original, but there's other ones that are just like background, a lot of background ones. There's two different types. There's background ones like this, and then there's ones that have a foregrounded, it's more of like a rapping vocal, but not really rap. That's the wrong word for it, but more of like a
Rhythm?
a spoken rhythmic song.
I'm guessing this is one of the ones you were referring to that we all know, which is Car Seat Headrest.
Got it open now.
They came out with an album called Teens of Denial. So yeah, I don't know, this album reminded me of parts of my youth.
Yeah, this is one of my 3 favorite albums of the year for sure. Like legitimately, or 5 because there's 5.
But it's kind of a concept album in its own right. Which I don't know, the title of the album kind of explains.
Yeah, and it all has to do with like him, like a character, like trying to get out of their small town and like trying to find ways of like.
Not in the Bruce Springsteen kind of way, really.
No, but finding ways to survive because there's like the cult song that's on here,
and like different things that happen when you're kind of wrestling with the youth of being a teenager. Except the songs aren't puerile like that; they are commenting on it, and he kind of does it through the voice of this character. But the song I got most obsessed with it on for a while is called "Drunk Drivers / Killer Whales."
Yeah,
which I went through a phase where I could not stop listening to it. And what are you gonna say?
So I have a question for you about that. Have you heard the new single version of it? Do you want to play this instead?
Is it different? Wait, a new, like a remix, you mean?
This came out like a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, and it's called Drunk Drivers / Killer Whales single version, and it is an entirely different song.
In the backseat of my heart, there's someone saying I'm a man. I couldn't get the car to start, my keys are somewhere in the mess. I fell asleep outside the door and found a letter in the morning. I couldn't make it out, although I recognized my own handwriting.
I'll have to listen to this whole thing, but my instant take on it, obviously, it's easy for me to say because I was in love with the first one, but this seems to completely undermine the emotional resonance.
Yeah.
Okay, so
is that
this
part of a joke? Is it supposed to be a joke that it does that?
I have no idea. It just came on my release radar on Spotify of all the new songs from people I've listened to that comes out every Friday, and I usually play it. And I saw that this was on there, and I was like, okay, I like that song.
It sounds like a national song.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been flattened out by committee. Like,
okay, so here's the original.
To start, I left my keys somewhere in the mess. comes and goes in plateaus. 1 month later, I'm a fucking pro. My parents would be proud. Or fall asleep on the floor. Forget what happened in the morning. There are notes in your handwriting, but you can't make it out. We are not a proud race. It's not a race at all. We're just trying. I'm only trying to get home. Drunk drivers, drunk drivers. This is not a good thing. I don't mean to rationalize or try and explain it away. It's not okay. Drunk drivers, drunk drivers. It's too late to articulate that empty feeling.
They made a video for this song, which is something I was going to mention about it. Because when I was obsessed with this song, listening to it all the time, and if I had a chance to play it for someone, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm obsessed with this song, and play it. And what would happen, this happened at least twice. I'd play it for someone, and they were like, yeah, like, it's fine. I don't really quite get it. And then I think this is actually one of the rare songs where the video makes it better. At least it makes it quicker to like it, because it's a very simple video. All it is a car driving through the woods. It adds a nice visual representation of where the emotionality of the song, where the resolution and the hope is coming in after the despair.
Maybe we can learn how to start again, like a child who's never done wrong, who hasn't taken that first step. We are not a proud race. It's not a race at all. We're just trying. I'm only trying to get home. Drunk drivers, drunk drivers. Put it out of your mind. And perish the thought. There's no comfort in responsibility. Drunk drivers, drunk drivers. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. Killer whales, killer whales. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. Killer whales, killer whales. Use that voice in your head, giving you shit again, but you know he loves
That album, the whole album from start to finish is spectacular.
It's really good. Oh, my turn again.
Yeah.
Well, if Nate took one that all of us would have probably mentioned, then I'll do another one, which maybe, but I would go with anything from Group Love's Big Mess. It sort of fits my
You gotta pick one.
juvenile
I'm not
sounding.
picking
Oh, I've got one. I've got one
okay.
down. I would initially have said anything because I can't think of a single song that I don't like off of this, and but the one that, to go with my stuck in the head part, the song Don't Stop Making It Happen,
Okay.
is one that
Go.
frequently gets stuck in my head, and I'll listen to it on loop.
Take it back to Saturday. I was in a K-hole, laying out in the pouring rain, on and on and on. No, no, I could take the sky away, put it in a payphone, calling out all my mistakes. 'Cause you don't stop making it happen. 'Cause you're the only one for. Don't stop making it happen. 'Cause you're the only one for. Don't stop making it happen. I can't take it no more. Don't stop making it happen. 'Cause you're the only one for. You're the one who got away, and I just can't let.
I really like that it's upbeat, and I like when the woman sings. on whatever songs. I like that there are a couple songs in the album, I can't name them, but that seem totally different from everything. This album, for whatever reason, I've latched onto very, very much, and maybe that whole, I'm going to psychoanalyze maybe the whole analysis, the whole need for juvenile songs and upbeat things has something to do with the amount of stress in this year and the shitty things that have happened politically and globally.
All the boys come follow me from NYC, and all the girls on the internet in your private jet, yeah, getting wet. All the boys come follow me from NYC, and all the girls on the internet, yeah, getting wet, getting wet.
It's so good, and it's very, I personally find it very escapist.
Yeah, it's super enjoyable.
And that's something that I've needed. You know, I've also done a lot of escapism through Netflix and stupid video games and less stupid video games, but this is great. I just really like this album.
So I'm gonna cheat, because cheating is fun. And so there's a guy, what the hell is his name again? What is your name, buddy? Give me anything. It's not on here. So there's a guy who has a name, who is an artist who I think might be from the UK, and he had an album that I listened to.
Let me write this down so I remember who he is.
Just remember that part. I can't think of what his real name is. But for a while last year, he had an album that was available on Spotify at the end of 2015, and it became like my favorite album. I guess it came out in 2014. And I really, really, really liked it. His name is Roger Sellers. He's from Austin, but like the album was available like in some weird way, and then it just was gone. Like it was totally gone. The album didn't exist. I couldn't find it. It was just gone from everywhere. And I don't know exactly what happened, but he changed his name to Bayon, Bayonne. And then the album came out again in 2016. So I think I'm totally cheating, and it's an album from years ago that's just been re-released, but under a totally new name. I don't know if it's remixed. It doesn't seem like it, but it was like one of these things I listened to a lot, and then it was taken away from me, and I was very, very upset about that, and I couldn't find it, and then it suddenly popped back up. But it's one that this is a very Chad album, and this is Appeals. There's a lot of texture to it, and it's got a little bit of the Dan Deacon thing to it. And the whole album also flows together in a way, but it's like, because even that beginning was from the end of the first song, and this is the second song. But I really like this album. I listen to it a lot, and now that it's available again, it's not been taken away from me.
want to do a really big cheating song, but it's like it's seriously choosing a song from 4 decades ago.
That's fine.
It's brand new to me, though. It ties into what I was talking about earlier of how I was listening to stuff that, I mean, some of it really well known to other people, and some of it these bands that, like, maybe somebody who's a decade older than me really, really knows, but I managed to miss while catching up in my life. But there's a band called The Move. Do you guys know The Move?
Nope.
Yeah, people of The Move went on to do ELO.
Oh, okay.
But I never really listened to ELO, and but The Move was recommended to me by a guy on a podcast. They're like, what I found really interesting about a lot of what they did, especially as it applies to this podcast, and why I decided, first off, it was brand new to me, so it falls into the hey, it was new. But they have an album called Shazam, and if you play the first song on it, I don't remember what it's called.
Hello, Susie?
Yeah. You can tell from the way that it's recorded that, you know, it feels a bit older, but I think it sounds very much like contemporary indie rock in a lot of ways.
This has got that very specific, like, late 60s.
Yeah, this came out in 1970, I think. But
Nixon.
But I think there are a couple things, both in like even some of the effects they put on the vocals to especially a lot of the specific guitar things. You can very much hear that, like, the reason people remember The Move, and I think they're probably really popular with indie rock, is you can hear exactly what's influencing a lot of modern indie by some of the moves that The Move does.
So I'm going to read one sentence and then we can go on. This is from the About section on Spotify, which is pulled from somewhere. Like, I don't know where they pull these things from, right? The very first sentence says, The Move were the best and most important British group of the late 60s that never made a significant dent in the American market.
Right? That's why they were like...
That's a good selling point.
I think some people of a certain age who say, like, I'm not really sure who The Move are. They think you were a crazy person. But it's because of that sort of reputation.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't quite make it over here. And some people, they were known as, like, oh, yes, they're incredibly influential. And I think so many people just don't even remember they exist now. They're kind of like a rock and roll Harry Nilsson. Like, he just left the consciousness of humanity, even though he was such a huge, influential guy.
Yeah.
That never happened. Okay, I'm gonna go with I don't know what the name of the album is, but it's Flume, their album, which I don't think is that great overall.
Yeah, I can say I don't like this album.
Skin, but there are two songs that I like. The one that I want to play is Tiny Cities, that features Beck, and the other that I'm not going to ask you to play is Never Be Like You. featuring someone called Kai, but Tiny Cities is one of the ones that I frequently got stuck in my head. I really like Beck's voice overall. Even when I haven't liked Beck's own albums, I have always liked his voice.
That last album of his was pretty awesome.
Yes, that one was. But this song, I just really, really like it.
Can I, should I find my way home? Or did I think I better go home? All I said I needed was gone. But I thought I had it all wrong. Can it ever be a safe bet? When they never seem to forget. So it ain't all that you said. Running down inside of your head. Oh, she is following me in my head when I am all alone. Thinking of her every time I wanna try to let her go. But it's never easy when you think you have it in control. Somehow you get caught up in the moment and you never know. All these tiny cities that you're holding in your little hand. Glittering like diamond lights that blow away in desert's end. It was never perfect, it was never meant to last. It was never perfect, it was never meant to last. It was never perfect, it was never meant to last.
I think certain parts of this, like Nate, you mentioned with the one of your songs where the not Leonard Cohen, it was the Cave, or the way he breaks the syllables up or gets that rhythm to it. It's not similar, but it's the sound is obviously not, but the concept is sort of similar, and I like that kind of
She referred to it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
disjointed, broken up.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this year, I assumed that when we got to this point, I'd be playing Bob Mould's Voices in my head as the Old Man Gonna Die song, but I'm not. Also, one of the other favorite songs, this is our last one, right? We're just gonna end. It's hour 10. Do you guys have anything left?
I mean, nothing pressing.
The Range, well, can I play two then? No, I'm not going to. So I'm just going to mention one. The Range is one of these artists I really like who had this album come out called Potential, in which he used YouTube people, not like the people that you were referring to earlier,
Not those
like the people I listen to, but people who put their
YouTube
music
stars.
out there, whatever, and remixed and made it into an album, and then they made a movie in which he went and talked to all these various people, documentary.
Fans?
No, they're like just musicians, just like self-released music stuff, and he just created an album out of that texture. It's like, I'll just play 2 seconds of Copper Wire, so you can see, like, it's not like he's just copying a thing. Like, he's got his own music, and he uses samples from their music or their voices into his music. And then he went and interviewed all these people and made a documentary about it called Superimpose. But I really like him overall. He's been on here, like, every year that he has an album come out, I've used it on this podcast, I believe, or I've at least referenced it.
Without you, without you. Without you, without you, the way I feel, without you,
and everything's changed. My life's like a book, but the pain still remains. Kinda near the last page. All I'm trying to do from a young age, trying to get paid, but we're all grown up, and everything's changed.
without you, without you.
the person, I'm going to talk over this and you can just drop the volume, but the person that I want to talk about is actually Hallelujah the Hills, which is a special reference here because Hallelujah the Hills had an album that came out a million years ago called Collective Psychosis Be Gone in 2007. It was the first album I think I was listening to a lot when I moved to Rochester. I absolutely love it. The guy's name, oh my god, I blanked on his name. Is I think he's from the like Boston, Vermont area, that area. And they've released a ton of stuff. They're from Boston. Ryan Walsh is the main guy behind it and like the main singer. And they've released a number of albums since then, like Colonial Drones, No One Knows What Happens Next, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Trash Can. And then in 2014, an album that I listened to a couple times but started listening to again this past summer, which is Have You Ever Done Something Evil, which is a fantastic album and has a lot of great songs on it. I'm not going to play one of them, but the reason that I wanted to bring him up and include him on this podcast especially is that this album is based on the Fox Sisters, which is one of our books. Rochester Knockings, for anyone who doesn't know that, is also based on the life of the Fox Sisters, and it's all about them in a way and has like references to them and was recorded in Macedon, New York, which is like 20 miles from here, and that's pretty crazy. And I emailed him being like, Jesus, I just learned this, that this was what this album was based on. I never realized that before. I don't know why. I'm stupid. Whatever else. And he was very receptive, and we sent him a copy of the book, and he was really nice. And he's writing a book that Ed Park is editing for Penguin about Boston in, I believe, 1968 and some crazy shit that happened there. But this year they had two albums come out. One called Movement Scorekeepers that is short and has a great song called Speed Dating Iowa City, October 4th, 2008. All the songs are 1 minute long, or just over 1 minute. The longest one is 1:53, which is the last one. But all the others are 1:20, 1:15, 1:19, 1 minute, 1:06. And they had another album called The Band Is Something to Figure Out, which has a lot of good titles in it. But the one that I like the best, is a long title too, sort of encapsulates their deal, is I'm in the phone book, I'm on the planet, I'm dying slowly.
Don't believe it when I say it's true. Some remotely matter of fact. Trashing sweetly down the interstate. There's no way we'll ever be back. Take some potions by the DMV. I looked up and saw you smile. There are times when I called your name. Mushrooms on history, you pour a ginger in a black little bands. We made a list of all our enemies, decided three things were always true. I'm in the phone book, I'm on the planet, I'm dying slowly. I'm in the phone book, I'm on the planet, I'm dying slowly.
Mostly I wanted to mention him because of the Fox Sisters connection, and they have a new album, so he can be shoehorned in there as someone who like has a connection in terms of spiritual, artistic sentiments with Open Letter. But he's awesome. I like all their things. But anyways, I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to add?
I have nothing important again.
I don't have anything. I had like one more song on my list, but it's not it's not a stunner or anything. It was just like this was just a nice song. I liked it last year.
Do you want to play it, like lead it out, outro with that?
Yeah, it's a I don't know, yeah, it's a nice outro song. It's off the Eleanor Freeberger album. New View. It's one called "He Didn't Mention His Mother," which I think that's a really nice album. Nothing about it is very terribly exceptional, but I found myself going back and listening to the song because it's just so damn listenable. I think it's just a really smartly written song. It's nice to see her kind of embracing more melody in what she does now.
Yeah, that's true. I like this album too. It never blew me away, but it'd come up and it's on my little playlist thing, and when it comes up on random, I always like it.
Yeah, like I didn't like sit down and obsess over this album, but I realized for a long time if I wanted something on in the background while I was doing something else, like it kept being this album over and over. And I think it was probably my favorite song.
I feel just as crazy as I did last night. I feel like I'll get up and go. Today I'm